How did you find growth opportunities in this already scaled, globally loved product?
If I have to just sum it up, I would say technology advancement, different maturity level of regulatory bodies or technology adoptions in different continents and countries. India is much ahead of any other country in the world because of our India stack. For example, GST came. You do not have a choice. Your accounting product has to be compliant with GST.
What strategies that you have followed in this customer medium navigation when you were there?
Stay relevant, stay very competitive, is to constantly evolve. So when you go with such deep customer empathy, you will always find opportunities. Let's try to build something as quickly as possible, put it in front of our customers and see how our customers react to it.
How do you really find those innovative ideas and yet making sure that customer retention is not affecting at the same time? Welcome to another episode. Today I'm excited to host Malthi, a former director of PM at PayPal and a founder of Spark Prod Consulting. With extensive experience spanning global fintech giants and SaaS innovators, Malthi has built reputation for driving impactful product strategies and fostering innovation. At PayPal, she played a key role in enhancing the core payments platform and heading Asia-Pacific payment products. Her leadership experience also includes roles at Society General, Intuit, where she drove innovation for legacy products like QuickBooks and TurboTax while maintaining customers' trust, and SAP, where she was heading product conceptualization to rollout. In this episode, we dive into how Malthi identified growth opportunities at PayPal despite its massive global footprint, a pivotal team challenges and key lessons learned from overcoming it, a strategic importance of product maintenance beyond being just a hygiene factor, driving innovation for trusted legacy products like QuickBooks and TurboTax, practical strategies to encourage customer adoption of new product versions, insights for those who are navigating from -1 to 0 or 0 to 1 journey. If you are passionate about product strategy, innovation, or learning from the wisdom of a seasoned leader, this episode offering plenty of actionable insights and thought-provoking ideas. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube. Your support helps us bring in more insightful conversation with industry leaders. Let's jump in and hear from Malthi. Hey Malthi, thanks for joining today. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Darshan. Pleasure is all mine.
Great. So Malthi, whenever we hear about PayPal, right? Elon Musk with a couple of other co-founders having that PayPal logo comes in our head. Because of that, they were early disruptor of the entire finance industry and they actually brought it online. And having that first mover advantage, currently if you see the biggest market share that they are having. You were there in the PayPal team earlier and you were actually a director of PM there, right? How did you find the growth opportunities in this already scaled, globally loved product?
All right. Yeah, that's a great question. So just to give you this thing, they were called the PayPal Mafia.
PayPal Mafia, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to this, see, I think I would say largely, just going beyond PayPal. But if you look at it, the whole fintech industry, I think there is still a lot to be innovated there. Right. And if I look at it in the last 10, 15 years, especially I used to head the payments platform.
Yeah.
Right. So as a payments platform in the overall experience, for example, for a customer or for a merchant, we were still in the back end, right? So what happens is that if I largely have to look at the opportunities for PayPal to grow, or for that matter, any fintech industry to grow, I would divide it into 3 to 4 parts, right?
Okay. How?
With the constant evolution of technology, right, there are always new opportunities to do things in a better way.
Okay.
Right. So there are always these technology improvisations. For example, what are the different things that I can do in order to improve the failure rates? What are the things that I can do in order to improve the latency? What can I do in order to improve security, authentication, right? So evolution.
Lots of nuances around the same platform.
Yes, right. Because with technology involvement, what happened? Your risk, your security, those become vulnerability increased.
True.
Right. So we as a product company had to constantly innovate so that we stay ahead of the not so good user persona, the scamsters, to make sure that we are able to deliver trust, good experience, friendliness to our users, right? So evolution of technology also came up with a lot of opportunities,
Right, right.
right? That's
Makes
number one,
sense.
right? Number two, I would say in different parts of the world, overall, the uh, technology evolution was happening, user behaviors were evolving. For example, if you look at it, I think India is much ahead of any other country in the world because of our India stack,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say these different levels of technology maturity,
Hmm.
changing user needs, also constantly throws opportunities at us to say that what can we do better?
Hmm.
How can I improve merchant experience? How can I improve user experience?
Hmm.
How can I leverage, let's say, the new technology stacks which each country has come up with?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
A subset of that, I would also say, are the regulatory changes.
Absolutely. That's a major chunk of,
That's a
I guess, the work you are doing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, new technology change, let's say blockchain has come up.
Hmm.
How can I use that to, let's say, add new funding instruments?
Correct.
It could be a crypto, or it could be even integration with new funding partners, or as I said, new technology, regulatory aspects which comes in. How do I stay ahead of my competitors in order to
Correct.
adopt that?
And I guess in a way, users were also comparing all the time that this platform is offering me every single possibility or not. If not,
Absolutely.
they will leave.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? So, if I have to just sum it up, I would say technology advancement,
Hmm.
different maturity level of regulatory bodies or technology adoptions in different continents and countries. That is another aspect of it. The third aspect of it is changing user needs,
Hmm.
right? And of course, the whole aspect with all these things, there is a security, data vulnerability, those aspects of it. So that gave us a lot of time for us to think through that how do we want to expand our market? How do we want to
Right.
deepen our engagement with our customers? How do
Hmm.
we want to overall improve the experience for our merchants or for our users?
Makes sense. But in that case, we have just figured out that, these are all the opportunities out there with evolution of technology.
Hmm,
But that will also lead us to managing the internal team and get things done from the team also.
right.
Majorly, it has related to the tech team, I would say. And being a PM, director of PM, it's your core responsibility that you get things done on time, deliver it to users, and bring revenue to the business, right? What are those core challenges in managing such execution, right? In order to having this constantly evolving technologies.
Oh, but I think while it is a challenge, Darshan, but I think that's also what keeps it very exciting, right? So I think
Absolutely.
the first and the foremost challenge is to, I think I would say, to keep your teams motivated about it,
Hmm.
right? Because not every single enhancement or every single thing that you're going to do is cutting edge or going to be very, very user driven kind of things.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of,
Sometimes it's
there,
internal also.
exactly, all you're doing is churning out APIs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because you have a upstream team, you have a downstream team,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So I think as a leader, one of my key aspect was that how do I keep my team super motivated so that
Hmm.
whatever our KPIs, and interestingly our KPIs were not, let's say, daily active users or time spent on the platform.
Hmm.
I was a back end team, so
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
KPIs were how does the latency, how can we improve availability, how can we reduce latency, how do we reduce failure rates, right? So
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is, it's not those fancy things, but these are very, very critical from a overall user experience perspective.
Hmm.
Imagine if you have to do a money transfer to somebody
Hmm.
and it takes, let's say, more than 10 to 15 seconds to do that. The user experience is not that good, or let's say the failure ratios, let's say,
Significantly higher.
high.
Yeah.
Our users are not going to come back. So that part is very important. The second thing I would say, one of the most challenging things is that we have a lot of different teams working with us.
Hmm.
So cross team collaboration. So as I said, since I was handling payments platform, this was pretty much in the end.
Correct.
Before that, we have a front end team. There might be a risk team. There might be a compliance team. There might be a
Security
security
team.
team, collections team, refunds, returns.
Yeah.
Not only that, my team was also interacting with a lot of third party financial partners, because if the money is being, let's say, there is a cross country wire
Payments are
payments
happening,
are
let's
happening,
say.
cross border payments are happening,
Huh,
so
huh.
there is a lot of external third parties with whom we are interacting, right?
Hmm.
So I would say one of the key aspect was that how do we make sure that we have a good alignment and collaboration with all the third party, not only third party but also internal stakeholder. So having a clarity on those strategic priorities which are which we need to be contributing as part of the organization was the one
Yeah.
thing. But the second thing is that we have our own KPIs, we have our own initiatives. So how do we do a balance?
Correct, correct.
Right, so that was, I would say, another aspect which as a leader that I needed to constantly manage to make sure that we are delivering high quality work and at the same time giving a good user experience.
Interesting. Uh, Help us understand, was there any instances where your team have managed a significant failure on managing uh, all of this aspect of the payment happen seamlessly for users, including cross-border payments needs to be gone through with regulations, with compliance, with tag, with latency, and everything combined all together. There might be a couple of instances where things have not gone as expected, and how your team have managed it, and what were the learnings for the same.
Yeah. So I really cannot mention exact, these things. But what I could say is that, when you are in the middle of high volume transactions, there are always lot of possibilities where your things can go wrong.
Correct.
Right, and one of the key aspect where, for example, the technology team, the product team, and our business operations team would work very very seamlessly was to make sure that we identify all these vulnerabilities and make sure that we are kind of constantly plugging them up. Right, so there have been a lot of instances where, and the biggest challenge over here, Darshan, is that every time you onboard a new financial partner, or every time you go into a new country where you start to operate, let's say, a new funding instrument, or let's say with a new third party partner, what happens is that there are always these unknowns which we do not know.
Correct. And you can't really operate the way you're operating with other geographies, let's say.
Exactly. So I think one of the primary learnings, for example, that we had was that for every, whether it is a minor issue or whether it is a major issue, one of the most important thing is that we need to have a complete track of what went wrong, where did it go wrong, and what we could have done in order to prevent it. So while in the initial years we started with a very prevention kind of a mode, or I would say more a reactive mode,
Right.
then we kind of change our levers to say that, guys, we need to be able to simulate, we need to be able to better prepare in order to predict such kind of downtimes,
Correct.
whether it is increase in failure ratios, or whether it is in terms of any risk issues, or whether any kind of failure ratios, for example. What can we do in order to be able to do a better job of predicting such downtimes?
Right. And being in a fintech industry, you are just a one failure away to lose the trust in the
Yeah.
game.
I mean, it could be a major thing for a brand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the very core focus areas, not only for PayPal but any kind of fintech industry, is that
Absolutely.
anything and everything that you can do in order to mitigate risks, in order to be prepared for any kind of downtimes, right? You need to do that.
Correct. Correct.
So that was a huge, I would say, mindset change where we needed to, put in investment. We needed to prioritize. We needed to allocate budget to say that, we cannot afford any of these. Not that we were not doing this, but I would say we started to becoming much more aware. We started to put
that might come in the future.
exactly, right? And because see, in any kind of scenarios, you cannot have, and we started making our KPIs much more stringent, whether it is latency, whether it is availability, whether it is failure ratios.
Right.
We were constantly trying to see that, can I reduce it by 1 bips, can I improve it by 2 bips, because every single attempt to optimize that was giving us huge returns.
Leverage. Yeah. Definitely. It's not just about saying the positive side of the entire game. It's better that you also see what are the negatives might come in the maybe right now or in the
Absolutely.
future also. And
Absolutely.
and if you see collectively, right, it will definitely going to help you in generating a better revenue, better user experience for the
Absolutely.
future.
Yeah. See, I mean, in today's world, people are talking about what AI, ML can do. Of course, like Chat GPT literally democratized and made people aware. But if you look at it, fintech companies have been leveraging machine learning algorithms for a fairly long time,
Yeah.
for whether it is fraud detection, whether to be able to predict downtime.
Hmm.
We have been constantly working and constantly looking at our data. How can we make these data, how can we make sense out of this data much more? What kind of a data do I need to capture? How do I make sure that the data is not sitting in silos? And how
Yeah.
do I translate into insights, into kind of information which helps me to give build more products, build more better simulations, so that we are able to give a better experience to our merchants, to our
Yeah.
users, to our partners.
Absolutely. And I think rightly you touched upon one thing that, just today that we have started seeing that Gen AI is helping B2C segment very well,
Yeah.
but it have been really helping B2B from a long time,
Yes.
because
Yes.
the data heavy transaction was really needed that, right? Not on the consumer segment, because consumers are not really data heavy in any way in their life.
Correct.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Malti, help us understand that since you said about the different part of the product, whether it's a user front or internal, whether it's a process driven or maybe something has to do with regulations and all, right? It comes down to not keep on making new features, new processes all the time. It also needs to be maintained at some extent so that it's sustainable, it's scalable in a way. But if you see current trend in the startup ecosystem, not many higher stakeholders are willing to take a bet on providing resources on the product maintenance or process maintenance, right? They always want to keep on building new things and leverage the resources for the thing only. What's your take on the product and process maintenance, and how do you see that entire exercise that helps businesses?
Yeah. See, one needs to understand that these products which are being used by your customers are your cash cows,
Yeah, yeah,
right? That's where you are making revenue. That's where the money is coming from.
absolutely.
And interestingly, if I have to just share some data points, despite AI and new technology, whether it is blockchain or different technology coming in,
Hmm,
you will still see there are tons of, especially large enterprise customers, tons of them still have mainframes. They still have Fox Pro systems. They
hmm,
are still using outdated, even if it has gone out of stock, because any kind of upgrades comes with a cost to the organization, right?
absolutely,
And the new age technology like AI and all are yet to prove their ROI,
absolutely.
right? Now, having said that, I would say probably startups, again, it depends upon what stage they are in. But if you are talking about a startup which is still in its 0 to 1 or in a 1 to 10, they, first of all, I don't think their systems have experienced any kind of limitation so far.
Hmm,
Because probably the volume of users are not there as much.
right.
But if you go for uh, s- systems, whether it is in a startup or in a large enterprise,
Hmm,
where there are millions of customers or hundreds of thousands of customers,
yeah.
where the systems have kind of exposed to the highest limits,
Hmm,
you will see that there has to be a dedicated team which is working on business as usual,
hmm, hmm,
right? So in any, for example, fortunately or unfortunately, I have, to a large part of my career, I have handled B2B products, especially the one which were like more than 20 years old,
yeah, yeah,
right? So if I really have to say, a couple of products which I handled were literally 25 years plus,
yes.
but with tremendous amount of retention rate,
Hmm, hmm,
right? And the money that we were making from there was also being used to invest into new innovations,
hmm,
because we cannot be just sitting on the laurels of what we have built and what is still being used by our customers,
correct, correct.
right? So it becomes our responsibility to make sure that for our customers who continue to use us for such a long time, who continue to keep coming back to use our product,
Hmm,
we give them a good experience.
right.
So, just to answer your question back again, sorry for a long answer, but and not a lot of engineers or product managers love to do product maintenance,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Now, see, again, product maintenance in a, I would say, in a non regulatory setup might be a slightly heavy lift, It is not a heavy lift there because you already have a code base. You are probably just doing bare minimum in order to maintain tech refresh.
Right.
But imagine if you are a payroll product. Imagine if you are a accounting product.
Hmm.
Imagine if you are a tax product. Every single year, budget changes. You have new regulations which
Yeah.
the company has to make sure that they are aligned to.
Correct. Correct.
Right? There are, for example, GST came.
Hmm.
You do not have a choice. Your accounting product has to be compliant with GST,
GST, of course.
right? You have a tax product. Your tax has to be, meeting the new norms of new budget, whatever tax norms which are there.
Yeah.
So there it becomes slightly more interesting.
And I believe it's not just limited to product innovations only, right? Sometimes it's a process maintenance also.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
at the end of the day, you are not catering to users with just a product automation, right?
Correct.
It has a both combination of automation and the offline resources and processes that you have set for.
Absolutely. So we have kind of seen, I mean, in my own journey, I've seen a lot of things. One is that product innovation, of course, just to complete the answer, one is your regulatory changes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you are looking at what could be those incremental things that you can do in order to keep the experience good. This could be in the area of support. This could be in the area of user experience. So, for example, I have done a product where for 3 years, multi-year, all we did was upgrading the tech stack
Okay.
because we did not see the product getting retired even for the next 5 to 8 years,
Okay.
right? So
That
our
was prediction.
yeah,
Hmm.
and we saw that. I'm no more with the product, but I know that it is still happening, right? So coming back to this, of course, your users are also evolving, right?
Hmm.
So instead of earlier for a B2B product, I would do one major release once in a year. I would do a minor release maybe once in a quarter. We
Correct.
changed that. We said that now we are going to be having a combination of some part of it, maybe SaaS, a part of it is going to be offline. So that means every single time I have a bug or I have a new release, I'm able to do a shipment, maybe let's say every month.
Right.
So that's a
Right.
process improvement.
And that is
And you
very
change from,
significant
yes, you
from
change from a
quarter to
waterfall
quarter.
to an agile,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Distribution, right? Earlier we would buy those CDs and stuff like that. Who buys CDs these days?
No.
Right? So you need to fill out a mechanism that your distribution channel also evolves.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? So from a product and process, of course, this is the product part of it, but from a process perspective, you have to look at the entire value chain. Where do you need to optimize?
Correct.
Your
Correct.
how are your release notes going to your customers? How are your, for example, 15 years back, I'm not going to look at social media reviews about my product.
Absolutely. No one even think about to do that.
Correct. And today, the other important aspect which you need to be aware, Darshan, is that my product should be accessible from a variety of instruments.
Hmm.
Is it responsive?
Correct. Correct.
Right? What happens if users are using it from a mobile versus
Desktop
desktop?
version. Hmm.
You need to think about those things,
Correct. Correct.
right? Nobody understand. I don't think Gen Z understands what's a thick client.
Yeah, of course, coming from the mobile first user mindset.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Right. So product maintenance, in fact, one of the things which I would usually do is that the junior most product manager, whoever comes into my team, has to work purely in maintenance for the first 6 months because the amount of customer empathy that you learn, because you're talking to customer support, you're talking to your sales, you're talking to your actual users, right? You are not doing something 0 to 1.
yeah.
You are handling a product which is kicking and living with thousands and millions of customers.
Hmm.
The amount of learning that happens in the first 6 months,
It's
I think
massive.
it's massive.
Yeah, yeah. And having said that, you basically get exposure to what it really takes for us to cater to a product so that product can work seamlessly.
Correct.
Otherwise, it will be just
Correct. And
frills
you're able to
only.
visualize end to end
Exactly. Yeah.
because that has been done and refined over the years. So,
Correct.
it there is a lot of art and science behind that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, Malti, I think you touched upon one really interesting topic here. You got chance to work with QuickBooks and TurboTax at Intuit, which are really long-term from couple of decades it is out there, right? And which is legacy product also for long-term customers, right? In those areas, being a leader in the product management, right? How do you really find those innovative ideas and yet making sure that customer retention is not affecting at the same time?
Yeah, actually, for such products, I mean, they are first of all brilliant products,
Yeah.
right? And you're right. Customer retention was like our when I used to be there was the primary metric,
Primary metric, of
right?
course.
Because we want to make sure that we are giving a good experience and doing it right by our customers and for the organization. So I think, as I was saying earlier, Darshan, what helped was that while our customers came back to us every year, every month using the product, the user habits were transforming, right? And thankfully, one of the key areas where we would focus, like apart from focusing on that, we continue to run our business as usual very, very effectively, making sure that our existing customers, we
Hmm.
were always looking for those opportunities where we could enhance our customer experience, right?
Okay.
As I was saying earlier, like for example, how can I make omni-channel experience for my customer? For example, whether my customer is open using my product from mobile versus
Hmm.
online, from a browser versus a desktop, right? So
Right.
that was one of the things that we want to make sure that our customers have a very seamless experience, right? So those are opportunities. And then looking at we were constantly looking at data, right?
Hmm.
Like over the period of time, how has our customer demography changed?
Hmm.
From a customer expectations perspective, what has changed? How
Hmm.
are our user habits transforming?
Hmm.
So constantly looking at some of that. For example, one of the things that we looked at was that our customers were, because see, we were handling finances,
Right.
and anybody always is very careful when they are
When it
doing
comes to
right,
a
right?
finance.
So there were opportunities where we found that how we could be more supportive to our customers when they are kind of filing for their taxes, or when they are kind of running their payroll, or
Correct.
when they are
Correct.
doing their accounting, right? So these kind of, the other thing I would say Intuit does really, really well is customer obsession, right?
Okay.
It was a mandate not only for product managers, but pretty much everybody on the product team, your engineer, QA,
Hmm.
to work with our user researchers, to listen into our product calls, to make sure that we constantly are learning how our customers are using our product,
Hmm.
what excites them, what are their pain points. So when you go with such deep customer empathy, you will always find opportunities,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And the other part is that it's a very matured organization from a product thinking mindset. So we were
Hmm.
always looking at outside in perspective. We
Hmm.
were always thinking critically about, we were very always very critical about what if we do not do this, what if we do this, right? So
Hmm.
that kind of gave a very healthy debate about what should we build versus what should we not build.
But all of these touch points that you have told so far, right, are more coming from the users front, whether it's a qualitative research or a data or talking to users or trends or things like that, right?
Right.
Those are very coming from the users' perspective. But was there any other areas of ideas coming from for the innovation which was
Oh,
not coming from the users per se, but team was
oh yeah, yeah.
thinking
So
about it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like any other organizations, we would do. We had some very, very capable, technology evangelists.
Yeah.
So we were constantly looking at that. How do we make a better experience for our users, right? By the
Correct.
technology innovations that we were doing.
Because
So
sometimes users don't really know that what next they
exactly,
want.
exactly. I mean, for example, the earlier thing I spoke about, right? I mean, imagine 20 years back when these products were built, their
Hmm.
tech stack was based on that time. But
Exactly.
you need to spend in a legacy product. One of the primary chunk where engineers and product managers need to spend time is to do tech refresh.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
how do I continue to give good performance? How
Hmm.
do I continue to make sure we are compatible with the latest technology, right? So that
Yeah.
was a very critical aspect. The other thing I would also say is that there was a good combination of both bottom up, which is by talking to your customers and all that, but also a top down approach. That
Okay.
what is the strategic vision of the organization, and how are we going to take all these products, all these customers, all these teams together towards that direction,
Towards that. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that gave us always tons of options. And while looking at data, we kind of came up with not only, I would say, improvising on the existing product, but some of the sub product in that product line,
Okay. Okay.
right? These could be value added services. These could be packaged capabilities that we could order to our offer to our customers.
Hmm.
So we were not looking at only for incremental improvisations within the product. It was also, for example, as a product manager, one of the key thing that I would do was work with our accountants.
Okay.
Because when you're doing accounting, payroll, taxes, you will work with any company, small and medium business, or any company will work with accountants.
You
So
have to actually.
yeah, so they were our partner. We were constantly looking at how our high value small and medium business is using our product versus a self-employed,
Correct.
because they are very different use cases, right?
And revenue for that each segment is also different.
Very different, right? So what the point that I'm trying to make here is that because of customer obsession, because of strategic priority that our leaders were looking at, and married with the technology innovations that we were having, we were kind of, if I have to just say, we were making concentric circles.
Right.
Where I had the core product, but we were building a lot of capabilities, we were building a lot of value added services, we were building a lot of supplementary capabilities within the product. So it was constantly expanding.
Makes sense. Makes sense. In that case, when this entire transformations were happening, right, at Intuit, considering it's a nearly a 3 decade long product, right? It's not have started with a mobile first experience. They would have started with, as you said earlier, DVD, CDs, and all. Move to more of a online on a desktop version, and then move to online to the mobile app sort of a versions, right? Which would have also required couple of strategies to be gone through, would have also required to do a good amount of a user research, understanding the pain points, why they are shifting their gears from desktop to mobile in the first place. Also help us understand what strategies that you have followed in this customer medium navigation when you were there in the Intuit.
See, I think one thing which any product organization should do, and that will only help them stay relevant and stay very competitive, is to constantly evolve. Okay. So, one thing, and I very proudly say that a lot of my product craft has come from some of these wonderful organizations that I have worked with, right? So, one thing which we were given the empowerment was that take decision, build experiments to constantly see that are your users taking it or not taking it. So the point that we would always come is that based on whatever analysis you have done, what is your hypothesis?
But at a lower capacity, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing an experiment, obviously, if I'm not going to do with millions of customers, right?
Yeah.
So I need to have a control group.
True.
Right? But since you're talking about how are these strategies, the problem is you do not know till the rubber hits the road. Right? So I might have spoken to hundreds of users. I might have looked at a lot of dissection of data and all that.
Yeah.
But I do not know whether how will the customer react to whatever I do. Right? So one of the key strategy was have hypothesis backed by data, your observations, whatever you have, go ahead and do an experiment.
Got it.
Right? Of course, as this thing would have, some experiments gave us more ideas. Probably they did not, succeed.
Correct.
But with every experiment, we learned.
Correct.
Right? So that is how we have constantly evolved. In any product, I have never shied away from saying that let's try to build something as quickly as possible, put it in front of our customers, and see how our customers react to it.
But were they open that time when the decisions that they need to make is on their financial product?
Oh, yes.
So whatever the experiments that you want to run with them, they will be definitely more worried about they will not lose money or things like that. So what were the problems you were facing in those constant experimentation strategies?
So, okay, see, I mean, as I said, not every experiment you need to, you don't have to do something glaringly different.
Okay.
That also can be very incremental, right? For example, one of the experiments where we did was that we wanted to explore that if we could have a new version for one of the products for a different kind of a handheld device. Okay. We went with a certain hypothesis. We knew there were some of our users who were using that kind of a handheld device, right? But not every time I need to have a advisory council or I need to recruit users. Of course, for doing prototyping and stuff like that, we recruited users.
Correct.
Which helped us figure out are we even on the right path or not.
Right.
Right. So for this experiment, for example, we recruited users. we got some of our hypotheses iterated. Then we decided to take a very small control group and said that let's try it out. Right?
Right.
I am, by doing an experiment, I am not taking away something that my user is used to.
Hmm.
I am kind of probably giving couple of options and see how this user is reacting.
Hmm.
So, the multivariate experiments, the A/B experiments was basically to see that how are our users coming and checking it, using the product. If it is not working, we are constantly monitoring it very, very closely. So, coming back to your question, I am not going to do an experiment which kind of throws a customer out of his chair and say, "Oh my God, what just happened?"
What just happened?
Yeah,
It's just another layer on whatever they are having.
correct.
Hmm.
So these were very well calculated, very well crafted and curated experiments. If there is something as drastic, something like what you are thinking, if we have to do, we
Yeah.
will do it in a more closer group. Recruit maybe, let's say, 100 accountants, or let's
Build the
say,
confidence that
yeah,
nothing is going to happen with your
correct, correct.
accounts.
Do it in a setup where none of their existing data is going to be impacted.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So I would say it is a risk versus, what is that we are trying to learn. That is how we would design our experiments.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Great, Maldi. That was really interesting to know. We come to the very last part of the episode, and there I want to know from you whether, let's say, you need to give advice to a founder who haven't started yet, and in the journey of -1 to 0, let's say. And there are a couple of founders also in the 0 to 1 journey also, right? So people who are in this -1 to 1 journey, what would be your advice for the founders?
Yeah, I think the most important is don't sit on the fence, just jump and take the plunge.
Okay.
I mean, see, the good part is that, especially if you are building a tech product, uh, you are really lucky to be thinking about your new idea in this era, because there are tons of tools, tons of ways that you don't have to do a lot of extensive. You don't have to recruit engineers. You don't have to recruit designers to do all these things. You can use a bunch of low code, no code tools and quickly give a, I would say, skin to your idea and take it in front of your users, and even at least look at it in a scrappy way. Is this something that our users really need or not?
Right.
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 So I would say, do not, if you are thinking about a new idea, if you have been thinking about how to go about it, I would say just find who is your customer persona for whom you have to do. Make sure you're doing some good job in making sure the problem identification is refined,
Hmm.
and you need to do your hands dirty. There is just no doubt. There is no other way to go about it. But
Yeah.
I would say, don't wait for it. Get some of those low code, no code tools and quickly build
Get the
something and
early
take it in front of your
validations.
users.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Uh, and yeah, as I know about the Spark Prod, right? But I want you to tell us about what exactly the initiative is and how you can help founders or product managers in their game.
Yeah, so it's been about 6 years since I started. Uh, I would say working with startups, advising them on various things. But it was only about 3 years back that I kind of founded SparkProd. So at SparkProd, what we are looking at is that working with it could be early stage founders, it could be founders who are trying to scale up their product. So if you're in somebody who's in a 0 to 1 or a 1 to 10 stage, you would like some like a sounding board who could help you translate your vision into a roadmap, tangible
Yeah.
roadmap. If you would like somebody who can help you translate your ambiguous idea into a well crafted MVP. If you're somebody who's looking to hire your first product manager and try to build your product team, that could be another thing. Then some of the other areas where I help startups is basically to build their GTM strategy, right? Put together their processes in terms of building the product. So
Right.
anything and everything around product, from ideation to taking it up. And the other thing, having managed products worth millions of dollars in terms of P&L and users, scaling a product is something which is kind of a very, very nuanced capability that I have. So that is something that I help when startups are thinking about, okay, how do I think about scaling up?
Correct.
What does it mean for my user? What does it mean for my team?
Hmm.
And the most important thing that I can help with is upskilling. Right now, for example, everybody was talking about what is an AI PM, what should my data strategy looks like,
Yeah.
right? So that is another area where upskilling of your product teams is something I can help with.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And for you guys, if you have any questions that we haven't covered in this conversation, let us know in the comment section below and we'll get it answered by Malti.
Sure, my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Malti, for joining today.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. And looking forward to your user audience, how what questions they have.
For sure, for sure. Thank you. Our main goal with this podcast is to bring insightful conversation to help you grow in your career by inviting leaders who are driving impact at scale. If you find this episode useful, make sure you subscribe because that only helps us to invite incredible guests for the future episodes. And in case you have any suggestions about who we should invite and what all topic we should cover, let us know in the comment section below. We are always listening to make sure we deliver exactly what you are looking for.